Hello and welcome to the podcast Eat Better Food Today. I'm your host, Ken Coonahan, and I'm excited to be sharing insights on why we believe that health and longevity begins with the food we eat. The goal of this podcast will be to inspire, educate, and enable folks to live a healthier life and do it affordably. My wife and I have been on this journey for over 10 years and continue to work on it every single day. Percent of the profits from this podcast will be put towards child hunger, with an initial focus on the poor suburb in America, East Cleveland, Ohio. As a reminder, please subscribe to this podcast. Subscriptions are the lifeblood of any podcast. Our sponsor is Cleveland Kitchen. Think of Cleveland Kitchen as providing easy gut health with their fermented foods, which means better brain health with just 2 forkfuls a day.
Okay.
All right, so on this episode, we're grateful to have George Karimali, lifestyle expert from Ikaria, Greece. You've been featured on the Blue Zones. Saw the picture of you with Dan Buettner, kind of that's online. And I guess you're in the Blue Zones Cookbook as well. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, that's correct.
You run an organic farm, winery, and restaurant in Ikaria. We met yesterday at Case Western Reserve University's medical school's teaching kitchen, where they shared Ikarian cooking traditions that promote health and longevity. So welcome, George.
Thank you very much. It's so nice being here with you, doing together so amazing things.
Hopefully we can help people learn how to live a longer, healthier life, improve their lifestyle. One of the focuses I have right now is we're trying to create a center in a poor part of the Cleveland neighborhood. So we're trying to think of ways we can bring information, education to that neighborhood so that they can, because their life expectancy in that neighborhood is 25 years less than other neighborhoods in Cleveland. So we're trying to do some things that's kind of how I got invited to your event last night. Case Western is interested in helping to figure that out as well. So with that as background, let's start with how you got involved with kind of Dan and the Blue Zones and why Ikaria. Kind of how did that all happen?
I think this is what they are looking for. Mm-hmm. So these people starting their surveys and their work on longevity and the Blue Zones, mm-hmm. They started a couple of decades ago, more or less. Mm-hmm. So they first came to Ikaria, I think 2008.
Okay.
So we met because they heard about our work, our place. They knew that there were people there who were working on this topic mm-hmm. for years. So they came to find us and learn what we were doing. So this was the first meeting.
Okay. And they came because people live longer on your island than they do in other places. There were 5 locations at Bit.
Yes, I think this is the first thing that attracted to the island. Mm-hmm. The information that arrived to them that people here, there are lots of centenarians, lots of people who live past 100 years old. So they came to meet these people, to find what is happening. Mm-hmm. Of course, I was doing this for decades. That was my personal interest. It was my journey into the world of wellness that had to do with the lifestyle of those who live long. Mm-hmm. It was because I was involved into the health living movement of Greece since I was in my early 20s, since I was a student into the university. So this was what made me be interested, as I was disappointed of hearing around me people dying very young. Mm-hmm. And it was always a question for me. Why do these people die young? Why not live a longer life? So they get studies, they create a property, they make a family, and then they die. So why should that happen? And then my journey into the world of longevity started by meeting people who live long, basically on my island, but I was also traveling to other parts of Greece, finding people in the villages, so exploring their diet, their lifestyle, their daily habits, what they do every day. So gradually this led me to find more things that seem to work, because after some time I gain experience, I get knowledge, and I saw that many things are repeated. So that was a clear sign that there is something the same, that there are same protocols that they happen. So this is what I'm presenting now in my lectures, in my workshops.
So were you a consultant? Were you doing this as part of the university, or what, like when you were doing this discovery?
I think it's only my personal, it's basically my personal interest, which now becomes interesting for many others. Some universities now, they want to hear about this, they invite us, so we present it to many others because it has things to say, it has things to tell people about how they live, what they do.
Okay. So in your kind of interest, or you kind of talked about this yesterday, kind of when you say lifestyle. So it's not just about food, it's not just about exercise, when you talk to people, you're looking kind of for the whole picture. You talked about asking them questions to understand their entire day, their entire lifestyle, not just one specific aspect.
Correct.
Interrelated.
Yeah, well, I think this clears out some wrong ideas about longevity. You know, there are many people who say and think that longevity comes out of one thing. There is a herb, there is a kind of water, a kind of food, there is something that makes them live long, which is completely wrong. This is not such a thing. Longevity has to do with the whole thing, with what you do 24/7. This is what it is. So it's every single detail of your daily lifestyle, of what actions you take, of what things you don't do. So this is what I present. This led me to discover the protocols of the daily lifestyle. So what do you do? What are the main things that you combine, and then they result to either positive or negative things for you? Diet, of course, is one of them. But diet needs to work in a frame. So it's part of the day. It works in a frame where then there is also movement, there is rest, there is fast. So all these protocols combined together. Successful combination result to more wellness. Lower inflammation, low stress, all of these things that come out of wellness. So since you get into this, you are going to have a better preservation of yourself. It's all about preservation, because we come from birth to death to a number of things that either they help us extend our life or they are going to shorten our life. So wellness is the way to make it longer. And this is the study of longevity, of how to make things work in a way that they will keep you well for a long time.
Yeah, so you brought up an example last night. You were talking about eating, and then eating is not a good, in other words, snacking all the time versus eating and then movement. So like when you've done your studies, you kind of talked about, I guess maybe if you could review some of that. You talk about when you get up, do some work, have some herbal tea, then eat your breakfast, then go out and move again. So you're you're not a stationary individual, but you're also not getting up and eating right away.
Yes, well, it's again human nature. We are what we are after hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. This is bad when people think that Human nature is to sleep somewhere and next to you have a fridge, next to you to have everything. That was not the case.
Right,
So we are what we are because for hundreds of thousands of years, we have been doing things the way we were doing them. So humans were sleeping in a cave for hundreds of thousands of years, and this is what human nature is. I mean, do I need today to do that? Not necessarily. You know, we can live in a lovely home, but we need to think and work the way we were doing it at that time. So you wake up in a cave, and what do you need? What you need is some energy to start the day. There is no fridge next to you. You cannot get it from there. So nature arranged something for you, arranged some glucose into your blood as soon as you get up. This is a spike, okay? This means you do have some energy to start the day. You don't need to eat right away. So what you do right away, you need to hydrate, because during your sleep, you dehydrate. So what better than having a cup of herbal tea? The best way to hydrate yourself, and then you need to move to spend your spike. Okay, you need to remove this glucose from your blood before you have any kind of food. So the centenarians, this is exactly what they do. Nobody taught them to do that, but they follow a tradition. They follow something that came down after hundreds of thousands of years. And in these places where people live long, this remains as a daily habit. It's a protocol they use. So you wake up, you hydrate yourself, you do some work to remove the spike, to use the glucose that is in your body, because this is what the people in the caves wanted. They wanted some energy before they access food again, which was far. So you do this for an hour, and then you are ready to have your food. Okay, before we come to the point to explain what kind of food, because this is something also we need to see. So these are protocols. This protocol is called eat and move. Okay, so you wake up, you hydrate, and you move. And after you move, you remove your spike, and then you eat, and then you move again. Because you need to use whatever is going to jump into your bloodstream. So after you eat, a lot of glucose is jumping into your bloodstream, and then you need to use it. If you don't use it, which is something that happens the last decades, it's a habit the last decades. 100 years ago, people would have a meal and then they would move. They had to work. Life was hard. They had to work in order to earn their living. So you eat and you move, and this is how you use it. Otherwise, insulin needs to come into the game and clear out your blood from whatever can be toxicity. So this is called insulin demand. So what happens when you have every day, after every meal, insulin demand, insulin resistance, because your body is complaining about having the presence of something that was used to have rarely. This is what was happening for hundreds of thousands of years. Insulin would get into the game once at a time, not all the time. Now you do it all the time, and then your body starts to complain and say, no more insulin. And then you get into very weird situations, very weird conditions called diabetes type 2. Or complete decline, because it's another kind of diabetes. You know, so we need to respect the protocols of the lifestyle. Once you get into this, then you will experience a different kind of life.
Yeah, and I mean, the last 75 years, to your point, I mean, diabetes type 2 is up. That affects cognitive decline. It affects your heart, affects your brain, brings on cancer. I mean, there's all kinds of, and that's like you say, like the last 50 to 75 years, maybe the last 100 years.
Yes. It's because convenience made people live a different lifestyle. And I think there is no worse guide into your life than convenience. You know, I mean, something that amazed me when I realized, because, doing these surveys, working with people who live long, because this is what I have been doing over the last 3 decades at least. Okay, gradually you find out details. So once I realized that in every house I was going, there were no comfortable furniture. There were no comfortable furniture. There was no couch. So these people were not experiencing inactivity, because this is what comfort, a lot of comfort brings to our life. It brings inactivity. And inactivity is an unknown protocol for the human nature. It's a protocol we are following the last decades.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody was having a big meal and then sitting in front of TV for hours to see series, to see shows. People were having a meal, not a big meal, all together, and then they would leave the dining area and go out to their works. It was a demand. Actually, it was an insult to stay next to the food after the meal. So the housekeeper, the mother, the grandmother, will kick everybody out after the meal. Go to your works. You have no place here. Go out. This was the habit.
Yeah.
I mean, most Americans, they know that this was the case. But what happens now? People will have a big meal, and then they will sit in front of the TV with a bag of snacks and keep eating. Another bad protocol. Eat and eat. Eat and fast. This is the way. So after you eat, you had no food for a long time before you get hungry, and then everybody gathers and they have the next meal. So now what happens now? Everybody is holding a bag and fooling around, having nothing to do. Bad protocol. So these wrong protocols, these wrong combinations ruined our lives. So we need to go to what works well for us. Then we will see amazing improvements in our daily life. And we will see that disease stays away.
So talk about some of the foods that you recommend and that you made last night from a healthy standpoint. I mean, you're not talking about a bag of potato chips. You're not talking about, prepackaged food. You're talking about other food.
Well, I think it's wider known now that refined foods are not good for you. I mean, everybody talks about that.
Yes.
We know that refined foods come with consequences, obesity, okay, leaky gut. What a big problem, leaky gut, which is the root cause of autoimmunity. Everybody today is coming with a food deficiency. Deficiency to gluten, to nuts, to lactose. Everybody has a problem. What is the root cause? Leaky gut. What is the reason for leaky gut? Refined foods, no fiber. So having your gut microbiome starving is not a good idea.
Right.
Gut microbiome is the source of 70% of your immunity, wellness, longevity. You need to keep it happy. So what the people who live long do? What is the number one and number two foods they use? Leafy greens, legumes. Leafy greens, an amazing source of green fiber. Legumes, amazing source of brown fiber. This is the first two foods. And what nice nutrients you get from them. Micronutrients, vitamins, minerals. So this is number one. Number two. Is this something recent? No. It comes from thousands of years ago.
Right.
So it was the foods that people were using for hundreds of thousands of years. What these humans were doing, they would go out, they will collect a fruit or a nut from the tree, some lovely veggies from the ground, and that was the combination of their food. From time to time, they will kill an animal and they will have some meat. Also good food, but not for everyday use. So this is combination.
Yeah, because you need the protein from a muscle, especially as you get older, standpoint.
Yes.
But not, in the States here, you get a steak versus a steak. Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's the okay, the wrong use of some foods. For example, foods high in protein, like meat, fish, egg, dairy. You want them from your muscle maintenance.
Yes.
You don't want them for energy.
Right.
So you cannot use meat as source of your energy, because meat is not the right source of energy. Right source of energy is always the good carbs that come from high quality carbs, like the legumes. The legumes, besides being a so balanced food in terms of good balance between protein and carbs, you know, and good fiber, they provide the best possible carbs you can have. So in the ancient worlds, they were respected as the food of those who work hard. You know, a dish of beans, of lentil, was the food they will provide to the workers, those who were exercising, those who were going to war. What the army was taking with them when they were going to a war, a lot of legumes like lentil. This is what these strong people wanted to eat. So this is a good food for us.
The video of this recording in a hotel lobby was unexpectedly cut short. To listen to the entire audio interview, please go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, my sponsor is Cleveland Kitchen, the leader in fresh fermented foods. Try Cleveland Kitchen's crunchy and delicious krauts, kimchi, pickles packed with probiotics to support your gut health while elevating your meals from ordinary to extraordinary. Cleveland Kitchen, where taste meets wellness. Find it in the produce or deli section of your local grocery retailer, or visit clevelandkitchen.com for more information. Thank you.